The past few days, you might have experienced more love, more openness, but no clear impulse to act. The feminine energy is opening deeper, experiencing more beauty, more love, a deeper layer of unity consciousness, while the masculine energy is temporarily unable to act, less impulse, less direction. And this creates a state where feeling exists without reaction, and this breaks the automatic link between emotion and action. This energy is an invitation to build a greater capacity to hold inner union. Hi, I'm Hanneke. Welcome to this energy update for Twin Flames and Divine Counterparts. I will be discussing Mars square Neptune and Venus square Pluto and the astrology of the next week. And this all builds on what was already set in motion by the full moon in Libra with the sun in Aries the last week. That full moon illuminated a tension between the feminine that feels and the masculine that no longer acts to what is felt but moves from his own inner impulse. And when I say feminine and masculine here, I mean feminine and masculine energy. I'm not talking about gender, but about the two functions, the two polarities in your own system and the way that it is expressed in connections. So what happened in the days after this full moon is that inner impulse was temporarily taken offline. So the masculine didn't feel the impulse anymore, and the feminine was invited to feel even more. This is because of two aspects that formed at the same time with Venus and Mars. So on April 4th and 5th, there was Venus square Pluto. Venus is in Aries, Pluto in Aquarius, and Venus stands for the capacity to feel, for receptivity and the feminine field, and Pluto intensifies, deepens, and removes the superficial, and it reveals what is real. And in Aquarius, Pluto works on the collective field. So what happened was that the feminine capacity to feel, the feminine receptivity intensified, and it moved beyond the personal. When that happens, what you can experience is that you feel suddenly this incredible feeling of beauty and love that just so deeply moves you, but it doesn't feel triggered by any specific situation or person. It's an opening for love beyond the relationship into love as a state. The way that I experienced this was that I got so deeply moved by music. It felt like the music was directly massaging my heart, and the melody just deeply, deeply moved me and brought me in this state of divine love. And it wasn't that this happened only once. It kept happening over and over again over the course of a few days. And it truly felt like this incredible gift from the universe. Now, what happened at the same time was Mars square Neptune. And the peak of that square was on April 5th and 6th. So Mars is in Pisces and Neptune is also in Pisces. Mars stands for the impulse, the direction, the initiation, and Neptune dissolves and removes clarity, and it also dissolves direction. So what happened was the masculine impulse dissolved. The concrete effect of that is that you feel no clear impulse, and there is this difficulty of initiating and reduced motivation. So the way that you could have felt this was wanting to do things, wanting to move, but just not getting to action and not knowing the steps or the how. And you could have even felt a complete absence of drive, where just out of nowhere, where normally you really feel this inner drive to do stuff, to live your life, to take action. It might have created confusion, but it wasn't it wasn't confusion that created a lack of impulse. It was just the impulse itself that was not available. And so the masculine energy within us, it couldn't act. And when you combine the effect of these two aspects, and this is very important, it's the feminine energy was invited to open deeper, and the masculine energy was, well, it wasn't like he was prevented to act. There was just no impulse to act. And the result is you feel more, you feel deep, you perceive more, but you don't move. And that creates experience without reaction. And the structural consequence of that is that, well, normally you would feel something and then act upon it. And now there was this deep, deep feeling without action. And what that changes is that this automatic loop is broken. So instead of feeling and reacting, you get feeling and staying with the feeling and integrating. And you can see this as an invitation of the universe to build capacity, or to see what your capacity is, how much intensity, how much openness, how much emotion can you hold without becoming unstable. You can look at it as Venus square Pluto is increasing the amplitude of your energy field. And it feels very nice and beautiful in the beginning, but there is a reduced impulse for the energy to actually move or reorganize itself. So you open more, but how long can you take this heightened pressure without feeling the need to act upon it or to search for something external? You can look at this as an expansion into that state of love and unity, but at some point your energy field will reach its limits. And this can show up as anxiety, restlessness, or the feeling that something is absent. It's interesting to notice what happens in a moment like that. What comes up for you? What types of emotions, what types of thoughts, what urges come up? Do you feel lonely? Do you feel the urge to reach out to your counterparts in order to fill that emptiness that you feel in that moment? Are you getting these thoughts of, what's wrong with me? Why am I alone in this? The invitation here is to not go into the story, just observe it, not try to fix anything, fix the thoughts, fix the emotions. Just allow it to be there, but realize that this is happening because there was an expansion, and it just shows you where you can't hold that expansion yet and what needs to be integrated. And this integration doesn't happen through going into the story and trying to fix the story, trying to fix the thoughts or the emotions, but the integration truly happens through feeling everything and allowing the energy to reorganize within your own energy field. Because there is this lack of impulse, it really helps us to allow the energy to settle into our energy system. It might feel uncomfortable. If you're used to feeling things and then acting upon them to discharge the energy, then this can feel uncomfortable. But the invitation here is to really feel it all through, let the energy settle in a reorganized way into your energy field, and return the loop yourself without seeking external discharge or external co-regulation. And this is a very important capacity to build in a twin flame connection or a connection with divine counterparts, because this connection requires two sovereign human beings that can hold their own energy field and that can circulate the energy field in a stable way. I've mentioned this before. This connection is built on resonance and magnetism and not based on compensation or a transaction. And it can only be stable when you have your own energy field that is stable. And what is being trained here or invited to train, it's not that everybody suddenly knows how to do this, but it is a collective invitation. But what it trains here is the stability of your magnetic field. And if that stability of the magnetic field is not present within your own energy system, it cannot be maintained in the interaction and in the shared field. The shared field is what we refer as the third energy. The third energy emerges when the energy begins to circulate between the two counterparts. And within that third energy field, both the masculine and the feminine function is required. The feminine energy she remains open and she holds that field, the magnetic field, and she allows the energy to be received and contained. And the masculine energy provides the movement within that field, the direction, and he organizes the flow of the energy. So the stability of that shared field, it depends on whether the feminine can remain open without reacting, and on whether the masculine can move from his internal impulse instead of reacting to the intensity of the field. That is exactly what is being trained now. And it shows you your actual capacity. How deep can you open and remain stable at the same time? When you can't hold that level of openness, your nervous system becomes overwhelmed and you start to experience separation instead of unity. What I feel is important to mention here is that we often know the difference between when we're in separation consciousness or when we're in union consciousness. But so often people make it sound like, oh, this is just a shift in, like a mental shift. Oh, you need to shift out of separation consciousness and look at everything from unity perspective. But that is not the way it works. We learn how to embody this state, and this is just based on your current capacity to hold it, which is very much linked to the nervous system. I always felt that there was this missing piece of information because I would get it on a mental level, but then I couldn't do it. And it feels horrible not being able to do something, even when you know how it should be. This is where it becomes so important to realize that knowing where you could be and trying to act from that state, that is the spiritual ego. It is not an embodied state. And it is not helpful at all to try to force yourself to be somewhere else, somewhere where you're not there yet. Honestly, that is the ego that is trying to fix a situation that feels bad. And that is a spiritual bypass. It is not feeling, it is not allowing the energy to reorganize within your system. And yes, it feels very uncomfortable, like I said before, but that is what the journey is. It is opening up to the beauty, to expansion, to the divine love, and allowing what that reorganizes within your energy field, allowing what comes up and to really process it, instead of saying to yourself or maybe even friends, oh, but this is where you are, and yeah, that is not a state of union, so you just shift out of it and shift into the new state. That's really not how it works. you allow yourself to observe what happens within yourself, and you allow the new energy to reorganize the patterns that are there, and you see them, and maybe you experience them, but you observe them instead of becoming them, and you stay in your center while this reorganization is happening. And staying in your center allows the energy to start flowing again and closing that internal loop without needing anything outside of you. And the more that you can do this, the more stable you become as a sovereign being, and the more stability, the more capacity that you build to hold that magnetic field of your connection. So it's really important to realize that we are not carrying the whole field of the connection. That is often what it feels like to the feminine energy, that the masculine is off doing who knows what, and the feminine is just holding that energy and carrying the field, and it's like she's doing all of the work. But if it feels like that, if it feels like you're doing all of the work, then this means that you are overextending yourself. It means that you are maybe too open to the field and you're not integrating it in your own system. First and foremost, you always take responsibility for your own energy field, not for the shared field. And I know what that feels like when you feel this incredible love and then this incredible connection, and you just stay open to it and stay open to it, and it feels like on some level you're waiting for the masculine energy to return to the field that you are guarding. It can feel like, oh, you deny the love, but I'm so certain that this love is real, so I should do whatever it takes to just remain in that field and to just cherish it, and maybe eventually they will return. But the thing is, when you're focused or you're putting your energy in that field, what is happening in your own energy field? And the question is also, why? What's the underlying intention? Why are you doing this? Why are you pouring all of your energy into something that you're the only one who's sustaining this right now? This might be because there's still this underlying something that needs to be fulfilled through the connection. But what you're actually doing is you're outsourcing something. You're waiting for something to return, where in fact what needs to happen is you take responsibility for your own inner stability and your own energy field, and you pour all of your loving attention in what is happening within you, and you start stabilizing and supporting yourself. You start closing that energy loop just by yourself, and that creates that stability where, as the feminine energy, you feel that trust and that surrender, that there will be a divine counterpart that will meet you where you are. It's not a literal place or time, but the divine counterpart will meet your frequency, your rhythm. You will synchronize. But the synchronization can only happen when you are stable and self-sufficient. And if the current astrology is showing you where you are still a little bit unstable, that's fine. Just realize that with compassion. It's okay. It's just an invitation to go deeper and to really build that capacity a little bit more and a little bit more. And each time that you open, each time that you go into expansion, there will come an integration phase where you will be kind of tested in your stability. That's just how it goes. Those are the cycles. So what happens in the next couple of days? We will move into integration on April 7th and 8th. Mars is still in Pisces. You might still experience a low drive, which helps with the integration. And then on April 9th, Mars will enter Aries. And so where before the impulse was dissolved, when Mars enters Aries, the impulse will be felt again. You might already feel it. I started to feel it again yesterday. But it might be nice to notice where the impulse is coming from. Is it internally sourced, or is it a reaction again to the external world? And then on April 10th, Mercury also enters Aries. Now Mercury is in Pisces, and what Mercury in Pisces does is there is a low structure, less linear processing, more diffuse interpretations, and not really a clear mental organization. And with Mercury entering in Aries on April 10th, this marks a period where communication and thinking and decision will become more direct and quicker. So it really becomes important then when we feel the impulse to act again, and there is more mental clarity and quicker decisions, that we really feel from within, where does the impulse come from? Does it come from inner direction, or does it come from a reaction to what you're feeling? And can you stay open without needing to resolve what you feel? If you want to practice this, connecting with the third energy from a state of awareness, connecting with the third energy without trying to change anything, fix anything, just really see what happens when you open up to it, and to detect maybe if there's any resistance for you connecting with it. If you'd like to practice this, I created a meditation. It's on my Substack, and I will put the link up. So how have you experienced this energy the past few days? What are you picking up right now? What's happening in your connection? If you'd like to share, I always really love to read all of your comments. And for now, I am sending you a lot of love. Bye.